Hello and welcome. Today we will be looking at a bus that has been in the Southern Counties Omnibus Collection right from the very word go. That bus is Bristol VR MFN41R. MFN41R was built at Bristol Commercial Vehicles during 1976, and in common with all other Bristol chassis that were destined to be bodied by Eastern Coachworks, it was driven in chassis form from Bristol across to Lowestoft in Suffolk, where it received a Eastern Coachworks 74-seat bodywork. Now that might sound all wonderfully standard, but the bodywork that 41 did receive was to the rarer 14'6" design. 41 was to be the first Bristol VR for East Kent, and was the first of 6 buses of that batch, MFN41 to MFN46R. During her service life with East Kent, she was based mostly at Folkestone Depot, apart from a few occasions where she was loaned out to cover the use of an all-over advertisement bus. Now, there is a really nice connection that the Bristol VR's WKO137S, MFN41R and TFN980T have, apart from the fact they're all in the Southern Counties Omnibus Collection, of course. MFN41R should have been the first of a large batch of Eastern Coachworks full-height Bristol VRs for East Kent, and WKO137S was destined to be one of these buses for East Kent. However, for reasons unbeknown to anybody else except themselves, East Kent and Maidstone District, which was basically working as one company at the time, decided to swap their orders around. Maidstone District had placed an order for a couple of batches of Willowbrook-bodied Bristol VRs, of which TFN 980T was going to be one of those. But this was diverted to East Kent, whereas WKO137S went the other way and was diverted to Maidstone District. Somewhere an impish part of me would love to paint WKO137S in poppy red with East Kent names on the side of it, and also Willowbrook-bodied TFN 980T in leaf green with Maidstone District names on the side of it, but I think I would probably get lynched by the purists if I was to do that. Now, 41 is the only one of this pioneer batch of Bristol VRs to survive, and this was due to her being selected to be turned into the Thanet Crime Buster in September 1994. In November that year, she was officially launched, externally being painted in this rather attractive but vivid blue and white livery, and inside she had an exhibition display downstairs and a hospitality suite upstairs. In this guise, she visited high street, schools and local events, and was renumbered 9041 for this role. Now, a nice connection that she has with my other Bristol VR, SKL681X, is that when I brought 681 back in 2001, the engine and gearbox was on a trolley next to the bus. Now, I know that's never a good sign when you buy a vehicle and the engine and gearbox isn't actually in it, but it did seem like the best Bristol VR that they had for sale. Anyway, the engine and gearbox were put back in the bus, and there was a few rogue pipes and wires to connect up, and at the time she was parked next to MFN41R, and I used the pipe layout on 41 to see where these rogue pipes should go on 681, so she was used as a little bit of a template. In 2003 she was numbered 15741 in the Stagecoach series, even though by now she was fully owned by Kent Police. This is because Stagecoach was still maintaining the vehicle on behalf of the police. That same year the interior was given a refit, and in 2006 she was repainted in the attractive silver and blue livery she wears today, which is very similar to the Jubilee buses of 1977, isn't it, when the Queen celebrated her Silver Jubilee. In 2011, her career with Kent Police was over, and she was handed back to Stagecoach for disposal. I heard that she was going to be up for sale and decided to put a bid in for her. And there's another little connection here, because this was the point I decided to sell DMS 550 and met Paul, who would go on to be such a good friend. It's unbelievable how something strange as selling a bus can bring friends into your life, isn't it? But in August 2011, MFN41R had passed into my ownership for the price of £1,000, and she became the second former Kent police bus in my little collection, the other one being PKE 807M. Inside as acquired, she was very well fitted out as a hospitality unit still. Only upstairs was fitted for a gaming area for local children to play on the PlayStation, whilst downstairs was still all displays and posters telling me that hyenas would be very keen to steal my car, which I don't think they would, because at the time I was driving an old London taxi and nobody really wanted to steal that. I think even the car thieves in Margate decided to give that one a wide berth. Now, there's two interesting facts here about 41. At one point, the front end had hit something and the whole one-piece panel, which includes the upstairs front windows and destination blind, had moved slightly to the near side and had opened up the joint above the stairs. So she leaked. And having a leaky bus with soft trim always results in a rather unpleasant smell on the bus. So I decided to start taking the soft trim out. Now, another thing we discovered about 41 is that it had come with a ghost on board. Now, I kid you not on this at all. That door that you can see in the centre of the picture had a ball bearing catch on it and made a very distinctive noise when it was opened and closed. Several times I spent the night living on 41R when I'd been working late at the yard and wanted to stay over. And not only would I hear this door open and close by itself, but I would hear somebody walking up and down the stairs, which was a little bit disconcerting because by the light of my torch I could ascertain there was nobody there. It was all rather weird, and to be honest with you, strange things still happen on board MFN41R. At the time I used to own a white London taxi and I put the Ghostbusters logo on the side of it, and somebody once joked that I'd have probably been better off putting that logo on the side of 41. Anyway, back to the removal of the soft trim. Now, this proved to be one of the most horrible jobs that there is that I think I've done on a vehicle, to be fair. When I removed the manky mouldy soft trim, it left a yellowy deposit on the ceiling and on the side panels as well, which you needed to use something called foameter to remove it, which then turned it into a paste, which then dribbled down your arm, down your neck, down your back, in your hair. You get the general message and the general picture. Soon everything became covered in this yellow paste, and even now, all those years later, when the majority of the soft trim has taken off, I'm still finding bits of this yellow paste everywhere. It's part of the joy of owning buses that not many people talk about, I think. So anyway, with all that soft trim removed, I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do with 41. I thought initially about putting some seats back in her and using her as a bus, but at the time we were doing a lot of weekend shows where we'd go away on a Friday night and come back on a Sunday night. So it seemed like a sensible thing to convert 41 into sleeping accommodation and a camping bus. Now, for those of you who are thinking, oh, this is terrible, that he should have restored it as a bus, when you take a bus to a show, it does seem rather pointless to be camping in a little tiny tent next to this great big empty metal box, which can keep you a lot warmer and sometimes a lot colder than a tent can. So that's what we did. Downstairs became an exhibition unit showing bits and pieces that we'd collected over the years, including things like ticket machines and bus stop flags and stuff like that. While upstairs was fitted with a toilet, kitchen cupboards, worktops, some seats so we could have somewhere to sit and eat, as well as a table and beds. And over the years we've done many of these steam and country shows over the course of weekends, and Muff, as she's now known, nothing rude I can assure you, it comes from her registration, MFN, she's known as Muffin or Muff, provided very comfortable and agreeable accommodation for us at these weekend events. I believe these pictures that you're looking at the moment date from 2019 when I did the Barham Vintage show near Canterbury. And Paul brought along DMS 550, and it was a nice connection that these two buses seemed to have, because obviously it was DMS 550 that I'd sold to bring 41 into the collection. I was going to keep originally 41 as a silver bus because that silver colour does make her stand out, and quite a few people have commented how good it looks. However, part of me would like to return her to either poppy red or the deregulation maroon and cream colour scheme, which incidentally MFN41R was the first bus painted in that, from what I was told. Now I don't know how true that is, but somebody told me that that was the first bus painted in the deregulation maroon and cream livery at East Kent. At the moment she sits at the back of the garage, and although she's not used, she's still very much loved. And while I'm living in the Isle of Wight, she's still living in Kent, so we're many miles apart. Long-term plans have now changed for Muff, and I'm thinking that downstairs I will reseat her and put all the seats back in and restore her as a bus, and externally paint her into one of the colour schemes that I've just spoken about. Upstairs, I'm still not sure. It's a very useful empty space to have and can make quite a comfortable bit of accommodation when we are away at shows. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this look at MFN41R. She's quite an interesting bus with quite an interesting history, and it just goes to prove just because it's a Bristol VR doesn't mean it can't be something interesting, even though it's meant to be standard and it actually isn't. If you did enjoy this video, please like and share it, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss my future releases. As always, I love reading your comments down in the section below. Have you travelled on 41 when it was in service? Did you drive it when it was in service? And have you ever driven or travelled on a hybrid Bristol VR? They look very ungainly, but they're absolutely lovely buses to drive. There's lots of headroom in the cab, and for some reason or other, they always actually seem warmer than a standard Bristol VR. I don't know why that is. Maybe you can explain it. Thanks very much for watching. Bye for now.